restoring men and history. So we'll look at a little piece. Heroes. Heroes are important to boys. They're important to men. You need to be able to see men need to be able to see a concrete example of a hero, right? So this guy wrote the piece, J.B. Shirk, Every Hero Suffers Before Succeeding. We're going to read a little bit of it, but I think we cheer on heroes that suffer as well. And that makes us love them more, right? The dirty, bloodied hero going through a lot to save the girl at the end of the film, when they keep that, if they don't cut it for feminism, right? Much more interesting if the guy's saving the girl, right? Without the feminism in it. And you've got a true hero with a purpose, saving his girl and saving the world, right? And what guy doesn't want to be the guy that saves the world and gets the girl? That's what we dream about as boys too, right? Outside of wanting to be Patrick Henry, that's one of the goals, right? You want to save the town and win the girl, right? If you like this video, please like, share, subscribe, and we will appreciate it. So before American education was dumbed down to a little more than indoctrination programs, and that's right, and parents have a tough choice today about sending their kids to indoctrination colleges. But let's not go awry. Let's stay with this piece. From brainwashing kids into believing that everything is racist and sexist. Look, does believing everything racist and sexist help you achieve success? Does it help you love others, or does it drive you apart? Does it cause division? They know it causes division, right? Dividing the country for what? Their power or control. We've talked about it, so we're not going to go in too much detail. Let's stay. But racism, sexism, all this thing. What does sexism do? Divide the sexes. Two, by the way, male and female. That's it. We don't need them divided. We need them to love each other and then create a beautiful family, or go out and create something in the world. Having deconstructed, all right. Most high school curricula included an introduction to Joseph Campbell's conception of the hero's journey. All right, it's one way to tell a story. Not everyone likes this way. Having deconstructed mythologies, folktales, and religious parables across cultures, Campbell diagrammed common themes present in their structure in the 17 stages that appear in various forms. From one story to the next, every hero's journey includes one, a departure from the comforts of home. So let's stop. Let's think about that. We just talked about what, actually? We just talked about Tolkien, Lord of the Rings. So what does Frodo meet? Number one, departure from the comforts of home. Frodo meets that, right? Two, trials and heartache that lead to self-discovery. Does Frodo get self-discovery? Yes. And triumph. Does Frodo triumph? Yes, with the Fellowship of the Ring and his tribe and his band of brothers. A new enlightenment that can be used to help others upon return. Well, certainly Frodo has a new enlightenment about life and Samwise, right? So I just threw that in there. Humans are not inclined to recognize a real hero unless that person has endured tremendous hardship and suffering. So think of somebody right now in America today that you believe has endured hardship and suffering currently today. Would you think that's Gavin Newsom? Probably not. Gavin Newsom, he says, does not strike anybody as heroic. The nephew of Nancy Pelosi was born with many profitable political connections. That his journey from San Francisco mayor to San Francisco lieutenant governor to governor was kind of easy, right? As an heir to a powerful political dynasty. And we know how much political connections can help you in that realm, right? If you look at the presidential almanac, the political almanac of politics, it's incredible how many connected people are in Washington. It's not just the Bushes and Hillary. Newsom has gone down a familiar path soaked in noble privilege and devoid of heroic sacrifice. So we like sacrifice, people who struggle. I've got a friend named Kurt. He keeps after trying to raise money in the movie business. He keeps after it. He has perseverance. His picture's there. Kurt, your pictures and perseverance, along with Jack Marino's. All right, Jack. In contrast, there's a simple reason why President Trump's popularity, so he's going to use President Trump as an example, continues only to grow. Even while deep state Praetorians seek his downfall and imprisonment, his venture into politics has been the hero's journey incarnate. Well, let's look at it. That's true. Think about Trump. He was a billionaire, has this huge jet. He's got a beautiful wife. He's got kids. He's got comforts of home. He can do anything he wants at any time. He's a billionaire. And everybody likes him, remember? He's well liked. But he decides to serve his country and become a hero. So he leaves the comfort. So that's number one. Now, every blow he suffers and dignity endures. Think of the attacks on this man. An enemy he sinks provides further proof that he is a man vested with uncommon courage. That is true. He had courage from the elevator on, right, to say what he did off the elevator about the wall. Took tremendous courage to talk about borders and American sovereignty. And I don't want to go too political here because it's talking in terms of a hero, but he had courage, right? And he stood for stating and boldly stating what he wanted to accomplish by having borders and American sovereignty, which American sovereignty is incredibly important. Look at what's going on in France right now with immigrants. And look at the problems immigrants are creating in France. We don't want that here, right? So this is a good example too. Now we're way off the topic. Let's go back to the topic. So, but here's the point. He had the courage to say we can't have illegal immigrants coming into America, right? Because the Uniparty wanted them all. Paul Ryan wouldn't fund the wall, right? So he was fighting the establishment. It takes a lot of courage, right? What if he had just been a billionaire who came in to serve the establishment? Would that have been easier? Yes. So why to respect him? Because he called out the Uniparty. He called out both sides. And he started out really well calling out both sides, right? He would go after the Republicans or the Democrats that were in that establishment uniparty that's about both want to go to war, right? And why did they hate Donald Trump, right? He didn't want to go to war. He got us out of wars, right? He did not go with the neoconservatives who want war and the warmongers, right? So Donald Trump did not get us into wars. Big accomplishment, by the way. Neocons love their wars. And look at Ukraine now. That happened after Donald Trump, right? Look at the mess. Look at all the money we've sent to Ukraine. What a mess. But let's go on. Every blow he suffers. If Joseph Campbell's comparative mythology is correct, we humans are instinctively drawn toward leaders who are mercilessly beaten to near death. That's true, right? Or let's look at Casino Royale, James Bond. He's poisoned in the car. And he almost dies. Gains our respect. He flips the car to avoid his woman. Gains our respect. It builds. We like that James Bond, Daniel Craig in Casino Royale, right? Because he's willing to what? Sacrifice and risk his life for the woman he loves and his country. Okay? Purpose larger than himself. What's certain, however, in this is its relentless pursuit of his destruction. Okay, back to the article. DC's permanent ruling class. Okay, we've talked about the ruling class, the Uniparty, has transformed President Trump into something greater than he was before his journey began. That's true, right? He exposed them, or they exposed themselves, however you want to look at it. But the vitriol for Trump showed you he wasn't going along with the Uniparty and they couldn't control him, right? They could not control Donald Trump. He wanted the border. He stood for the wall. He wanted certain things. He stood for tax cuts. He kind of did. He tried to accomplish what he set out to do, and they had to come up with Russian collusion and spy on him, accuse him of what they were doing. I mean, the whole shut him off Twitter, election interference with the Twitter files showed the election interference in the Hunter Biden story. You've got massive mail-in balloting that we know what happened there, right? I mean, you can't have that much mail-in balloting and not have massive fraud. So what this man's been through, imagine knowing you've won and you have to deal with that, all of that under attack, and he's still under attack, right? So as these people come against him, many people will begin to respect him more because he doesn't quit, right? Never give in, Churchill said. Churchill's another one, an example that we could talk about. Winston Churchill had that courage. He never quit, and Donald Trump doesn't quit. In fact, Churchill and Trump have not quit on you. They keep going forward. Trump is running again for you, right? So this is not a Donald Trump piece. This is really about the hero, but he brought up Donald Trump, so I'm just throwing this in. Jim Caviezel is another hero. And what makes a great hero in a story? If the villains are really wicked and evil, right? And look what Trump has gone up. It's that dirty swamp, that establishment, those people that are out for themselves, and you can see it. They out of their mouth say we need to curtail the establishment. The Republicans and Democrats say we need to curtail inflation, and then they spend a fortune in Ukraine. And they do that. They go into trillions of dollars in debt and do that big, huge spending bill. showing them they're not on your side, they're on their side, right? The uniparty. Jim Caviezel is another hero who leaps to mind, a talented actor who's achieved notable success. Back to the piece with his early performance in film. He risked his career to portray Jesus in Mel Gibson's The Passion of the Christ. Now, look, that's one of the marks that I always talk about as a hero. Somebody who's willing to risk his life for his principles. Somebody who's willing to risk his life for his wife. Somebody who's willing to risk his life for his fellow knights, his friends. Somebody who's willing to risk his career to stand for the truth. We've talked about this a lot, so we're not going to stop here. So if you are a man, you can be a hero by risking your job for the truth today, because it takes a lot, right? You can be a hero today. You can. We could talk about this a long time right now, but let's go on. In a town, he risked his career to portray Jesus in Mel Gibson's The Passion of the Christ. Well, we know what that would mean, right? In a town hostile to religious conviction, Hollywood responded by more or less blacklisting Caviezel from acting roles for the next 2 decades. At any time during these personal trials, Caviezel could have caved to the entertainment industry and renounced his spiritual faith, right? That's what they want. He almost certainly knew that a single public statement denouncing Mel Gibson, his film, or Christians generally would have been rewarded with readmission back into Club Hollywood. Instead, he chose to endure any professional hardships with quiet determination. Quiet determination, notice that word. To spread gospel's truth to young audiences everywhere. So he had a higher purpose, right? God. Higher purpose than a temporal movie business job. Higher purpose than being a star. To young audiences and to trudge forward with a head held high despite personal sacrifice. We like that in a hero, right? George Washington was willing to sacrifice for this country. Patrick Henry was willing to sacrifice for this country. He may not have known that he was being watched by millions who wondered whether he would crack. Yet he demonstrated that inherent nobility of stoic manliness. Now that's under attack too now. Have you seen the psychological journals? I was going to bring one in attacking on how stoic manliness is bad for you. Toxic manliness. Because his character proved what? Resilience. So Trump had resilience. Churchill had resilience. Jim Caviezel, Mel Gibson has resilience. But Jim Caviezel was willing to put it on the line to play in The Passion of the Christ. By the way, we'll talk about Mel Gibson here in a minute. Hollywood has done a lot to bury both Caviezel and Gibson and to prevent them from reaching audiences with their work. Ironically, their perseverance, now we like perseverance, right? We just did a video on perseverance. It's an important manly virtue. Has drawn audience closer, and that makes sense because I respect perseverance. When I see a man with perseverance that keeps going like Kurt or Jack, I look at it and I say they keep going. Because they don't have to, they could quit. What trials have they recently chosen to confront? Instead of seeking the safety of what is easy as familiar, both men have sought only more difficult trials through the years. The evils of human enslavement and sex trafficking, a nightmarish underworld reality that our incurious press and complicit politicians all frequently cover up. Caviezel and the director, a talented supporting cast, and a heroic film crew have worked together to bring to the big screen the story of Tim Ballard's selfless efforts to rescue hundreds of children from sex traffickers around the world, while Fox and Disney had kept Caviezel's film locked away and unseen. Another hero, Goya Foods CEO, helped fund the endeavor to acquire the movie rights from Disney and put it in the hands of the aptly named Angel Studios. The result has been a runaway hit, Sound of Freedom, a film whose significance has resonated with audiences everywhere. In spite of, remember the attacks on it? They came out against it. Deliberate attacks by powerful entertainment companies. By the way, you, the people, overcame all the attacks on Sound of Freedom, and you made it money, and you made it hit after all the attacks. So give yourself a pat on the back. Gibson, too, has a personal connection. Now, Mel Gibson, private support of a number of orphans in Ukraine led him to contact Ballard for his aid in protecting those children from Gibson's valuable intelligence. Ballard organized a team that has been successful in beginning the process of dismantling an international pedophile ring. Gibson also provided Ballard with assistance in documenting this real-life human slavery in a way that will enable people to understand the pervasive evil targeting children across the planet. Now, Gibson's going to come out with apparently a 4-part series on this pedophilia. The monumentally important rescue operations of Tim Ballard have been kept quiet till recently, with the help of 2 actors in Hollywood. A larger audience that could have been imagined now understands what is at stake in the existential battle of good and evil. Ballard, Caviezel, and Gibson have suffered, yet persevered in their own victories over evil. They have brought a new enlightenment that helps us understand what lurks in the shadows. Their lives reflect the hero's journey, especially Mel Gibson, especially, right? He's about to do a 4-part series. And look at the attacks on him since the Passion of the Christ. Remember how they got him after the Passion of the Christ? Think about this. If he had never done the Passion of Christ, do you think he would have ever been arrested? He certainly wouldn't have been attacked the way he was, right? Because that's when they came after him, right? I think it irritated them that they all turned down, or many turned down the Passion of the Christ. And I can tell you a story from Fox. And then he had incredible success. By the way, I believe he put about $30 million in the production, if sources are correct, and about another $15 million in marketing. So he really reaped the rewards, and that probably really irritated Hollywood, right? They turn it down, they don't do it. If we're on a journey to defend personal freedom from government tyranny, then should we expect fewer struggles? No, you've got to expect struggles. Real heroes are not handed success in the way they've been handed. Okay, the story of America's independence would be a lot less meaningful if the British Empire had quickly folded and given in all the patriots' demands. Well, it would, right? It was all those years of conflict, sacrifice, marching in the snow with no shoes. Washington, when he crossed the Delaware, remember? Their feet were bloody. I've told this story. It's the sacrifice. So let me go back and tell this story of Mel Gibson as a hero. He's a great hero, actually. Brilliant director and brilliant actor. Fantastic. But Fox, they had Rupert Murdoch. Apparently, this is a story that a man told at a speech I was at. So he told it publicly in Hollywood. I was there. And he said this. Fox had the chance to do the Passion of the Christ. Mel had come to them, and Rupert Murdoch had all the executives in the room, because I believe he said Murdoch, if the story's correct, put it out there. He said, hey, why don't we do this? I think it'll be a hit. And they went around, and the executives didn't want to do it, and somebody asked why. And they said, Mr. Murdoch, if we do this film, we'll never be able to work anywhere else. We'll never be able to do anything else. So that shows you the fear of promoting God and Jesus Christ in Hollywood at that Fox table of the speaker that talked in LA, who worked at Fox, by the way. And he was a higher up at Fox. I think he was one of the top people at Fox when he did this speech. All right. So freedom you have to fight for. We need heroes to win our freedom. How can we wrap this up today? Look, you can be a hero. Now, one thing I always talk about heroes is what? Be willing to sacrifice for your country. And if you're willing to take the risk. In the Declaration of Independence, they said what? We mutually pledge what? Our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. They were doing it for what? Purpose larger than themselves. A lot of times heroes do it for a larger purpose than themselves. Now, this is just one type of hero. You could be the Taken type of hero that's efficient and goes through and gets his job done without learning anything, okay? Without leaving the comforts of your home. But here's the point. If you want freedom, you have to stand for it. And we need heroes. People need to see heroes too, right? If you see a hero, you might be more willing to be a hero. Thank you. If you like this video and the mission, please like, share, subscribe, comment. It helps the algorithm. Thank you.